I would like to start with you, Pak Anies. Trying to make a metropolis like Jakarta sustainable must be very complex. I want to ask you, what lessons did you learn along the way in sort of reverse engineering a city like Jakarta into becoming sustainable? I'm glad to have you with us, Pak Anies. I also want to ask you, you have the challenge of managing a complex city like Jakarta and making that sustainable. What lessons can you learn from your experience there?
Sure. Thank you, Judith, Pak Bambang, Pak Ridwan Kamil, and all participants. It is indeed, the question is not about whether living in a cities or mega city is sustainable. The question is how to make living in a city sustainable. Because you know that the world cities occupy about 3% of the earth, but cities account 60 to 80% of energy consumption and 75% of carbon emissions. That's sort of the one side. But on the other side, cities are also economic engine of the world, and the majority of the population is now living in cities. So we must understand that a fight for climate must also be a fight for better livelihood. And the vast majority of people are still struggling with basic needs. That is what we are also experiencing. And they come to cities hoping to find better opportunities. Those urbanizations will continue. And therefore, effort to tackle climate change must also be understood by the people as means to improve their livelihood. So we're glad that Jakarta, I'm happy to report here, is on the right track in fulfilling the climate target. 2 years ago, in 2020, Jakarta reduced its greenhouse gas emissions by 26%. And with that pace, we're optimistic that 30% reductions of emissions that is targeted in the year 2030 can be achieved much sooner than expected. Because imagine in 2020, we reached 26%. So we have 8 years to go and more 4% to reach. On the other hand, we are also succeeded in showing our economic resilience by a rebound from its lowest economic growth, negative 2.4% when the pandemic hit us in 2020. And we're back to positive 5.6% in the second quarter of 2022. So if we had to share one of significant progress over the past 5 years, I would say it's a transportation reform. The reform in that sector has produced significant impact. Transport, as we know, produces a significant amount of emissions. And in Jakarta, it contributes the largest share of emissions. It is around 70%. So shifting the public away from cars and motorcycles into public transport and non-motorized transport is one of the best ways to tackle climate issues in cities. And I think this is some of our important lessons. And providing an integrated and reliable public transportation system here in Jakarta, which we produce through a system called Jaklingko, became our priority, and it has made a huge change in our city. So transportation costs was estimated make up about 30% of household expenses. And with the new approach, citizens are now paying only 10,000 rupiah, around 60% in US dollars, to go anywhere in the cities. And in addition to affordability, an integrated public transport system also offers reliability, which increases productivity. And also, there is a positive side impact, which is promote social interactions. So the benefit, not only the community through its reliable services, but also the transport operators, the laborers, and everyone in the ecosystem were experiencing a new ecosystem that made public transport something of their benefit, and people feeling it as something that they a new experience that they enjoy. So with this approach, what we are seeing is this. One, the public were shifting away from private vehicles into public vehicles. We are reducing green carbon emissions, and on top of that, we are integrating our society. So the technology is there, policy option is there. This is from our experience. What is needed is political will. When there is a political will, it is translated into budget, and it is translated into policy actions. Then public started to experience that reform. So that's some of our experience here in Jakarta. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Anies. So we've spoken about the optimistic outlook for growth, for investment. But in a country like Indonesia, when you build something, unfortunately, that does mean you have to cut down forests, you have to clear land. How are you, I want to go to you, Pak Ridwan, because you were speaking about investments. How are you balancing this need for economic development and this need to create jobs with environmental protection?
Yes, I think all Indonesian regional government must comply 3 levels: national level policy, provincial policy, and its own local government policy. Within this, we are complying to SDGs, that are agreed globally and translated into local regulation or peraturan daerah, for example. That's in the form of responsive policy to sustainability. And I think it is mandatory that we are also educating the whole society about, to balance 3 Ps, the profit, people, planets, because sustainability is about balance. So when I translate this principle of sustainability, we are, for example, last week just passed our 10 years land use plan of West Java, protecting what we call the rice reserve, not to be transformed into industrial park, for example. As you know, West Java is home to 60% of industry in the whole Indonesia, okay? So we are very strong in industry, but yet we are surplus in rice production. So every year, my province, West Java, produce extra 1 million ton of rice. So this is balance, of a good rice production, but also a sizable number growth for industrial. And we are campaigning also to society to be more sustainable in lifestyle. 2017, I was mandated by President Jokowi to revitalize the longest and biggest river in West Java. It was labeled as the dirtiest river in the world, Sungai Citarum. Then we are doing what we call pentahelix approach of collaborations, ABCGM, academician, business, community, government, and media. And I'm happy to report to you, after 3 years from heavily polluted river, now scientifically the status is light polluted river. So the endemic fish appears again, children from villages swimming again to the river. And Pak Jokowi asked me to present this achievement in COP26 in Glasgow to show to the world that basically the recipe is collaboration. You cannot rely sustainability only to government. It's up to everybody, the business, the community, the media, campaign. So I think that's what's happening in West Java. But as I said before, problem majority in environment in West Java is due to the urbanization that too centralized in urban area. That's why COVID gave us a lesson that too dense of an urban area becoming also the center point of COVID disease, right? So now, because of digital access, people can work anywhere. So this concept is very attractive to young generation. I said to this young generation, hey, post-COVID, you don't have to go to Bandung or Jakarta. Let's work anywhere in the village, by the mountain, connected by digital with your knowledge. Then you live in the rural, but you make urban income, and you can make a global business. So I'm selling this idea of the new decentralization of urbanization in West Java, and I think we are doing very attractive response.